Hi, everyone. Good morning. Good morning. I said good morning. Hi. If you are here, I'm going to assume that you... Should we sit here?
Stand up. We can stand up.
No.
Oprah style. We can walk around.
Goodness
No,
gracious,
they told me not to do that, by the way.
No.
Okay. Just like no.
If you are here, I'm assuming you care about innovation, technology, your place in it, and where capital flows. I also assume that you are looking to share ideas, learn, and also bring ideas back to your school, your workplace, to your company, and also understand probably how you can get some of that capital and access. And we are all in a situation where some of that is currently uncertain. And I, little old Mandy Bynum, LP investor, gone public 3 times in Silicon Valley, grew up there, 2 parents who are computer engineers. When I got the phone call to talk to my old friend here, Brian Brackeen, to chop it up about, oh, and disclaimer, by the way, there may be references to a generalization of mediocre white men. So if that's sensitive topic to you, then this, I just want to let you know.
This ain't the talk for you.
This isn't not the talk for you. So I was like, book me on the next flight. Let's chop it up. So I'm very excited to chat here with Brian Brackeen about all things venture, state of venture. If you're a founder, how to get funding, some of the things that he has worked on, some of the things that we've talked about. And because we have very limited time, also very much want to take space to answer questions from you all. So without further ado, let's get started.
I'll also add, this is a room of non-mediocre people.
Absolutely.
Yes. Good to have you guys
Absolutely.
here. Glad you're supporting One Philadelphia. It is an amazing organization doing some of the best work in the country. And so shout outs to our organizer. We're so proud to be here today.
Hey. Hey, Joey. Joey Wambach. Hello. So let's start with how did you get into venture? Can you give us like a short snippet? How did you end up where you are in your journey?
Yeah, not having enough money to self-fund.
All right, that's a great place to start.
Yeah. I'll go back. So I was born in Cleveland, a Nigerian father and an African-American mother from Ohio. Wasn't the right time for them, so I put up for adoption. I had Amish foster parents for the first year of my life. People in Philly understand that. Other places, they're like, who? And then adopted by my parents here in the Abington area. Father's an engineer, mother's a psychiatrist, and pretty much been a Philadelphian, whether I lived here or somewhere else my whole life. I'm always the loud, obnoxious Eagles fan everywhere. Go Birds, by the way. All right. And so after a kind of like a corporate career, IBM, Comcast, I got a job at Apple while Steve was still there.
Okay.
I got there just after the iPhone launch, was there all through the iPad launch, a period of...
Are you saying you're old? Is that what
I'm
you're trying
very
to-
old.
Okay.
Yes.
Got it.
Black don't crack, but
Right.
you know.
You just want to let us know.
Yes. And then ultimately left Apple to start my company, Kairos Facial Recognition AI firm, and that's when I got into venture. Didn't know anything about it. Went through an accelerator called Newbie Accelerator, run by a woman named Angela Benton, who you know. Yep. And she and that program taught me everything about venture.
Okay, so we had a conversation over here about venture and getting funding, and you and I have a lot of conversations about who and what venture capital is built for. And someone very astutely asked, you talk a lot about getting funding as a founder, and you talk a lot about the family and friends round, but like, what if we don't have that? How do we go about even getting funding? And you and I talk a lot about the many different ways there are to go about getting funding, but maybe get into a little bit, and we can maybe talk high level, but let's talk more about the early mistakes and learnings that you made around or maybe your aha moments of oh, there's so much more to this than I initially anticipated around this whole venture capital thing.
Excellent. I'm going to answer your question with a story again. So started that company, needed that friends and family round, and I come from a pretty kind of wealthy background here in Philly, but they're also cheap as hell. And so they weren't trying to give me any money. Our family helped to start United Bank of Philadelphia, which we're very proud of. And if anybody goes to Philippian Baptist Church, 5801 North Broad Street, all right, we started that too. But the idea of tech to like my banker and religious family members were like, boy, you better get a real job, like, so they weren't trying to put in on this idea of a facial recognition company. And so at the time I was in San Francisco, and I did some research, and it turns out African-American founders do just as well as any founder with angel investors, because it's all about like a one-to-one connection. Like me and you go somewhere, we have dinner, you see something in me, you just want to support, and we win those, we get those yeses in a committee of one, just at the same rate. But in venture capital, when there's groups or investment committees or boards of people that have to make the decision, oftentimes a unanimous requirement for a decision, there's always somebody that just can't get comfortable with the woman's deal or the minority person's deal, right? And so you get a 7 out of 8 vote, and you don't get the money, right? And so there's a huge drop-off between angel investment and venture capital. And so I asked myself, who had the most angel investors? And so I decided to leave California and move the company to Miami, because Florida is where people get old and they're rich and they're bored and they have no friends. So what they did? They joined investment clubs and they invest in startups.
That's very smart.
Yeah, and so we raised about $13 million doing that.
Was that over like a cup of coffee that you decided that, or was it like a journey that you were like, Florida, there's a there there?
There's a there. Well, on the investment side, depending on how rich somebody is, will tell you how fast they write the check. The richer they are, the less they care about that 50 grand. And I closed once. This is an extreme situation, but I closed once $1.5 million check over just a coffee, over just one, and he had wired it only 2 weeks later. Other times, smaller amounts, 25 grand, I had to talk to that person for months and months and months. So the big learning there is, if you are raising money, find a rich person and ask for a smaller number, you're going to get it quick, right? If that person really needs that money, you really not want that, because even after you get the money, they're going to be on your butt to get it back. So think about the person's situation that you're pitching when you're trying to get cash out of an angel investor.
So let's switch gears a little bit and talk more about what you do now. Tell us more about that.
So we grew the company to about $120 million valuation, and we sold it in 2018 to a black-owned private equity firm out of the Caribbean. So took that money and decided I want to go to the other side of the table, right? Seemed like investors were having way more fun than I was having as an entrepreneur. And they were definitely working less hours than I was. Turns out that's not true, by the way.
It's not.
No. But that's how it seemed at the time. And so, first we started a $50 million direct fund focused on women and minority founders called Lightship Venture Capital Fund 1. And then this year we launched a $2 billion fund-to-fund investing in black fund managers, our first closes.
Let's just pause there.
Okay.
Can you, or I can do it. What is a $50 million fund?
What's the $50 million fund?
How about I'll do it?
Okay. You do it.
So $50 million venture fund is a fund that Brian and co went out and raised from multiple people, maybe like me, called limited partners. I am a limited partner who wrote checks into this fund. And Brian goes out and therefore invests in founders who are to return this fund to all of the investors. So his expectation is to go and find these amazing founders who are going to exit their companies, make billions of dollars, and therefore return not only money to Brian, the founders, but also to his limited partners.
Exactly right. Our goal there is to take 50 and turn it to like 200, 250 million.
Correct.
In a 10-year period.
In a 10-year period, yes. A marriage.
Okay.
Average marriage. Go on.
And then the larger fund, the $2 billion fund, that's to invest in fund managers that are doing that exact same work, but are having a hard time raising their funds. So we invest $20, $25 million into those fund managers. Yeah.
Very good. Okay, so along the way with Lightship, tell us more about, we have a lot of founders in the room. Tell us more about some of the ways in which you had to make like those small key decisions and like, I'm not gonna be that white fund. I'm not gonna do that. And as easy as it is to do that, I'm not gonna do that. Do you know what I'm asking?
Yes, I do know what you're asking. Okay. I've lived it. Okay. So an example is in San Francisco, in California, not in Philly, but we would never. But in California, warm introductions are part of the culture of the place. And for those that are familiar with things like trade unions and other groups, warm introductions are often used to keep black and brown people out of jobs and out of environments that were not wanted. And so when a San Franciscan says, hey, I only take introductions, you got to find somebody I invested in or find another fund manager to make an introduction to me, and that shows me that you've got some grit and some gumption. Well, if I went to whatever school, Stanford or whatever, I have an easy way to get to that person. But if I'm from Philadelphia and I'm not from the West Coast, right, and I didn't go to an Ivy or whatever, and I don't play golf at the course that won't have me, then how do I get in, right? And so for our fund, and I find that for a lot of women and minority-led funds, they have open application. You just go to our website, lightship.capital, and anyone can apply for investment there, and we review every single application, usually within a day or two.
Wow. And also, you bought a conference. Can you tell us more about this tiny little conference that you bought and why it's important for you?
No matter what a venture capitalist tells you, it is not a full-time job. It is a full-time job for a mediocre venture capitalist. But for those of us that are exceptional, we can do two things.
You're damn right.
You're goddamn right. I'm sorry for the kids. You're darn right.
She's heard playing.
So we went out and bought Black Tech Week from Felicia Hatcher and Derek Pearson in Miami.
Have y'all heard of this before? Black Tech Week?
Yeah,
Yes.
Okay. It's a darn good time. This year we welcomed almost 4,000 people to Cincinnati, Ohio for the conference. And it's a conference for founders. So we love and support, and we buy full price tickets to Afrotech to support the culture. Afrotech is for people that are in technology that work at a corporation. Google, black Googlers, and black Facebook folks. Black Tech Week is for founders. And so we're teaching things like how to grow from here to Series A using this tool, this specific thing or this method. We do about 100 talks over the week in a variety of top-tier buildings like the symphony halls. We put on a heck of a show.
You've had folks like Serena Williams there.
Yeah, Serena Williams was our first keynote 3 years ago since we bought it. And then we had Issa Rae last year, and we had Ava DuVernay as well.
Yeah. So what I'm essentially trying to get across is like we're scratching the surface of Brian Brackeen right now because we only have 20 minutes, but there's so much that you do. And so I think because we do have such a broad audience and we have a lot of young folks in the room, if you were talking to Brian, who's 17 in high school, what's some advice you'd want to give him that's appropriate for this room?
Stop getting C's and D's. You're killing your mother. She's so worried about you. This is for the Philadelphians in the room. We were just talking about this. We are so proud of our Quaker roots, and I am so proud of. I think it's a character thing that I take with me every single day. But Quaker modesty is also keeping the world from knowing what we're doing here in Philadelphia. And we're doing some of the best work in the world here in Philadelphia. And so you ask somebody from California, say, I went to Stanford. You ask somebody that went here, they go to like Wharton or Penn, they say, I went to college in Philadelphia. Right? And so I like that. I love it. And that's what I would teach my children. But we need to tell some people what we're doing.
And what are those things? What do you think needs to be told?
I think that we're truly a multi-industry ecosystem. Of course, we're great in the life sciences, health, wellness, all those things, but I see a lot of great AI. I see a lot of good other things here in town. I'd love people to know that. I think people like First Round Capital are like top tier, and Josh and that crew. People think that firm is based in San Francisco. Like, really do, because they don't really.
I thought they were based in San Francisco.
Okay. There you go. So I think there's a variety of things that, an ecosystem is doing really well. The other things I will say that I also hear from my compatriots here is, in the best operating ecosystems in the country, the corporations are writing bigger checks more often. And I think that we need to see a lot more support, philanthropic support, even though we get a lot, but even more from our corporations. And then the last thing is, the absolute best ecosystems, like a place like Tulsa, Oklahoma, which is absolutely crushing it. I think Ashley's here with us this week. They have a very active philanthropic billionaire. Tulsa creates about 100 Black-led, funded startups a year. Right? I remember looking here in Philly a couple years ago, it was like 12. Tulsa has hundreds of thousands of people. We have millions of people, right? Our GDP is billions and billions more than Tulsa. And they have an active billionaire, and we have way more billionaires. So there's got to be a little bit more pressure, I think, on that class to do more for all of us, because the cities that they love will cease to be vibrant if we don't invest in entrepreneurship.
So I'm hearing more collaboration is needed from top to bottom, from folks in this room.
And not just bottom to top. I feel like the bottom to top is doing a great job.
The top is doing a great job, or the bottom?
No, the bottom is doing a great job.
Right.
We would like a few shekels to come down here to the people.
So we can, I think it'd be easiest to do a mic Q&A for Brian. We do have a few minutes left. So if anyone has any questions, I'm happy. Katie is going to walk the mic to you. We've got one, of course, way in the back. Ladies first, ladies first. Can we turn the mic on?
The question she asked was,
young students looking to get into careers for their futures. Yes, tech careers for their futures. Come to the Bay Area.
Number one, you are the future. We're coming to you, not you coming to us.
You're damn right.
Right? Don't chase us old people, right? Let us see the value of the way you text is the way that we will be texting in the future, not the way I text with periods and commas and full words. You know what I mean? So like you're already it. So I would say finding what you love the most that literally pays nothing today will pay a lot in the future. And just going deep, like being Tony Hawk, but in tech, right? Like he's like, I'm a skateboard. Nobody's paying for that, right? And now he's super rich, right? Like just dive into what you love.
I will add to that and create a little bit of balance as well. I absolutely agree. And I think a lot of times where there's a bit of conflict is, I don't want to say it's an entitlement, but it's like you can be really good at what you do and also learn from people like us who have suffered in our 20s, in our 30s with like a lot of trauma working at these tech companies, and can share a lot of like, here's what this system looks like and how you can navigate it so that you can have a full-time W-2 job clickety-clacking away, and also have a creative career expression on the side, and expand that so that when you are ready to fully do that part of your job, that can be your only thing, which is pretty much what we both have done in our own careers.
If there were 100 steps, just being here is step 10, so you're already on the way.
McCall? Oh. Yep. Here.
What does the election mean for this conversation?
I meant to ask that. Thank you so much.
He's a journalist.
Of course. What does the election mean for this conversation?
Man. Two starkly different realities. I'm just going to give one specific example that can extrapolate to a larger thing. There is a program that we are in the running for right now. We should finish in about 5 weeks by the SBA, called the SBIC program. You guys know the SBA, they invest in small businesses. They also invest in funds. And so right now we're up for a $175 million investment from the US government because the Biden administration rewrote the rules for this firm to include two things that helps minority firms to be successful. One, it says whatever experience you have in life, just give us all of it and we'll blend it together and give you like a blended experience, not just I've been doing the same thing for 50 years, because 50 years ago there are very few of us doing that thing, right? Mm-hmm. And number two, they have specific call-outs for women and minorities in this program that invests $175 million.
You're talking about SSBCI?
SBIC.
SBIC, okay,
SBIC.
yeah.
Yes. And so that program will continue to exist probably in one administration and probably wouldn't continue to exist in that manner in the other administration. And that's how big. Last thing, our check to us, which starts us off, our fund, a $2 billion fund, and we're investing in funds, but ultimately the companies beneath it, we'll invest in between 1,000 and 4,000 U.S. companies through this fund. So imagine how that looks when we're in charge of all that money versus someone else. And so that's an example of the difference. Yes. Great question. So there are two realities. One, when there are more black fund managers, and particularly black women fund managers, have the most diverse portfolios. If you want to see diversity, that doesn't mean not investing in white, but if you want to see great diversity, always give it to a black woman. She's going to spread it around the broadest. That's like the general rule. We have a bias for women in our investments. They've been our best investments. So that's one. Two, there is a real niche answer to your question, which is some people want to change the system, some people want to join the system, right? And so we are very aware of, are we giving it to the Kadaji Brown Jacksons, or are we giving it to the Clarence Thomases, and what the difference is between the two. I'm very well aware of the difference between the two. Yeah.
This is something we talk about often, very often. It's gotten me in some trouble. From your chest, Fatima.
Thank you for the questions, Fatima. Too many for the time. I'll tell one quick story. When I founded Kairos, I told you about raising all that money. I made it quick. It sounded amazing. There were some bad times. One of the worst times was we had run out of money. I went into the office. And I said, hey, guys, you're going to get paid this Friday, but you're not going to get paid next Friday. And I don't know when you're going to get paid again. And as your leader, I have failed you because my job is to get the money. Everyone else here did everything I could possibly ask, right? And my I'm sorry isn't going to pay your bills, isn't going to make things any better, isn't going to make your conversation tonight with your partner probably a pretty tough one, right? And if you have to go, I understand. If we'll still be friends. I'll write a recommendation letter. I get it. But if you stay, I know we're onto something. Like, if you stay, I know I can raise more money. Like, if you stay, we're going to take this company and pivot it into a facial recognition AI firm. At the time, we were doing time clocks for facial recognition. And so after a long, teary weekend, I came back, and not a single person had left. And I knew then that if I just serve those people, literally for the rest of my life, I will be successful. Right? And so the pain of that moment yielded a lifelong learning that has made everything in my life so much clearer. Yeah.
Wow. And what a way to end. Thank you so much, Brian, for
Thank
your
you.
time, for coming down. Thank you to everyone. Brian, where can we find you, either IRL or on the interwebs?
IRL right here in Philly till tomorrow.
Eating cheesesteak, I imagine.
I've had 3. And I'm having some more. So 1, blacktechweek.com. Love to see you guys there next year. 2, if you're looking for investment, lightship.capital. Apply for investment. If you're a fund manager, lightship.capital/anchor for investment. And then follow me on Twitter. I'm quite spicy, at Brian Brackeen. And it's all this and just a little more.